Your life journey doesn't stand still, and neither should your wealth. Welcome to Wealth on the Move, the podcast. Will Hoffman offers investment advice through Private Advisor Group, which is a federally registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult with the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Welcome back to another episode of Wealth on the Move, the podcast. I'm your host, Will Hoffman, founder and president of Hoffman Wealth Management. And today we're finally going to get talking about the move part of Wealth on the Move. We've had a lot of guests and a lot of conversations about our money, how we feel about money, how we can best use it to manage our lifestyle and to put us on a path to the life and the decisions that we want. But with our last guest being Phil and Aaron Lockwood talking about the lifestyle and traveling and moving their business digital so that they could really get the global experience for them and their kids. Today, we're going to step a little bit deeper into the move and talk about how fitness and our wealth tie hand in hand. And we have a guest, Stan Vaccari from SV Health Consulting, Coaching, right? SV Health Coaching. Right. I couldn't read my own handwriting. I'm sorry there.
You had it.
Coming to us from London, right?
Manchester. So London South, I'm North.
Okay.
That's the accent that you'll hear. If you've never heard a Northern Manchester accent, this is it.
Okay, awesome. So we're going to talk about fitness and finance, how it all ties together. Stan, first, I want to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your business and who you work with and why.
Well, yeah, so like I said, SV Health Coaching. So now it is transitioned all online. It's interesting that you spoke with someone last week about digital and, traveling. Like last year, I went to Bali for a month and I essentially ran my business on a laptop from there, which if you told me 8 years ago I'd be doing, that was nowhere near. I was stuck in a gym for 60 hours a week. That was my, if I took time off, I essentially lost money. So I had to find a way of blending also. It was multiple reasons for going online. One, COVID hit, and I needed a way of, wow, it's so fragile. If I can't actually do my work in person, I don't earn any money. So that's where like the wealth side of things comes in as well.
Yeah.
But then, so I moved online, now 5 years ago? Oh God, it's 5 years since COVID. So yeah, 5 years ago. And it's kind of evolved into there for multiple reasons. One, people get far better results online than in person, in my opinion. Well, and also through the evidence, but also it just became a lot more flexible as well. So I run a lot online, so it's just helping. It previously, when I first started, was helping everyday people, but I started out with a lot of athletes over in the UK as well. So I did like Premier League footballers, boxers, cricketers. I know you don't have cricket over in the US. We have
not yet.
Over here. Not yet. I mean, it's not my favorite sport. You have baseball, which I think is, if it's possible, an even more boring version of cricket. So I work with a lot of athletes, and it was a lot of retired athletes initially who kind of didn't have an aim with their fitness. And like, what do I do? I'm not working towards a goal anymore of the sport. So how do I stay fit, stay mobile? That's essentially what I did with a lot of them. And then it eventually moved into a lot of executives, a lot of time poor people who, very similar to yourself, running businesses or, the high up in the business executives. So I help them with their nutrition, lifestyle, obviously the fitness side of things as well. And then also just building habits as well. And overall, why I call it health coaching is health has to be at the center of everything. So that's what I do now. And then I also run a supplement business over in the UK as well. So I do protein, electrolytes, creatine, all those types of things. So That's like my little breakdown. I've been doing it for the last, it'll be 8 years. So I went to university for history, so nothing to do with sport so really using the degree well. My plan was to become a lawyer at first. That was my history degree, transition. And then I did a year at a law firm. I did a few months at a law firm doing work experience, and realized I don't want to do this. And then it was kind of like, well, what do I do? And I was working at the BBC in the UK at the time doing podcasts, and I've always loved podcasts. So I was doing that, and then it was in sport. Met some cool people. They said, "Oh, you look like you go to the gym," and I said, "Yeah." And then they said, "Do you want to come to the gym with us?" And then I essentially did that, and it went into the business that I've got now. So it was all very happen chance, but it was something that I was always interested in, the fitness side of things, and I've always been interested in, the wealth side of things. I was always the nosy kid going around to my friend's dad's house, going, "What does your dad do?" So
you said something that I want to unpack quickly, and I know we may be going off the rails right away, but you said something about how performance is better when you're coaching online than when in a
Yeah.
gym.
Yeah.
And you have the metrics and the
Yeah.
science and
So,
the evidence to prove it. Why is that? I guess I'm more curious to know also.
well, so I honestly, I got to a point where, and I was fortunately very busy. It was good money. It was a lot of time in the gym, 60 hours a week. Some people, I even trained some guys. I went around to their house 8 times a week. Some people were obsessed with it. I did double
Okay.
sessions on a Sunday. The problem is, you see that person for an hour, and you train them, and they do really well. But let's say your goal is fat loss. Okay, like just take. Let's just say your goal is to lose 30 pounds. The gym's probably the third most important thing.
Okay.
Nutrition, what you do outside the gym in general, so your movement, and then it's the gym to help you build muscles, to get fitter, whatever it is. If you're coming to me, and let's say you're not coming to me 5 times a week, let's say you're coming once a week, I can't control that other aspects. And when I've got that many other clients and I can't oversee all the nutrition, everything else, and I don't know what you're doing if you come 3 times a week, that's 165 hours out of the week. I don't know what you're doing. And then you expect, it's almost like spoon feeding. People would say, oh, I'd have a really bad weekend, but I'm going to see Stan on Monday. Whereas with the online, it's very all encompassing. You do the nutrition, that's very, very important, the lifestyle. And then also with the training, it's just more accountability. You're 3 times more likely to get to your result if you've got someone accountable. And with the online, I keep everyone accountable every day. They get text message every day, calls every week, check-ins twice a week. So it just works so much better. And the results that I've got in the last 5 years are so much better. You get the odd person who
Wow.
make a really good result when they come to you in person. It wasn't because the training was bad. Everyone liked the training, but I just didn't have the capability to oversee everyone.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. I want to talk a little bit about the comparability between fitness and finance. And I've said for years, and a little bit of background about me. I run marathons. I've
Yeah,
in 14 years run 7, working on my 8th marathon for the New York City Marathon in the fall.
that's a big
Um,
one. The New York one. That's a big one.
yeah, it'll be my 3rd time doing a New York City Marathon.
Wow.
It's my favorite race to do.
If you don't mind me asking, what time do you aim for when you
Around 4 hours.
run
I've
for? It's a
still
good.
yet to break
Yeah,
the 4-hour barrier. Hopefully, I will this fall.
nice.
But I try to get in at around 4 hours.
A long
To
time to
me,
be
it's
running. It's a long time.
yes, yeah, right. And going faster is harder, but
It
it
is.
also means you're done fast. You're done quicker.
Yeah.
So I'd like to be faster because and I started doing it for the discipline.
Yeah.
I was 12 years into running my business at the time and needed the discipline. Wanted the discipline, wanted the habit forming part of training.
Mm,
What I learned at that point was when I was training, I was better at everything else.
yeah.
I was a better dad. I was a better spouse. I was a better business owner, better financial advisor. I felt better. And, it's not easy. It hurts in a lot of times, but everything started to tie together where my life started improving
Yeah.
when I was training. And I took a year off last year, really to just rest my body. It had been 10 years. It had been 7 marathons in 10 years. Um, Also, within those 10 years, we had 2 more children. My business grew.
Yeah.
So I needed a year to rest, really not just rest my body. I needed a year to rest.
Yeah. I get that.
Um, and just work and be a dad and a spouse, like those
Yeah.
are easy
Yeah.
things to do.
Oh, yeah.
But I ended up, I felt terrible and wasn't a good dad, wasn't a good spouse, wasn't a good business owner, wasn't a good advisor. I shouldn't say wasn't as good
That's
as
good.
I was whenever I was training
Well,
and running.
you said something. I think you said something really important that people need to get into their head. It is hard. Like I
Yeah,
think people think even now I've been training for a long time. It never actually gets any easier because you always just push the boundary. Like let's say you break 4 hours, the next time you do it, you'll try and break that. So it's always going to get harder.
sure.
But it is equally hard to be unfit, to not
Yeah.
like just
Yeah,
take it
I
from
was
me.
going to say being
Yeah,
unhealthy is hard too. You have to kind of choose your hard,
it's
you know.
exactly that, and it's almost tying it into the wealth side of things. I look at it as the best thing that wealth can buy is just time and freedom. The
Mhm.
best thing that fitness gives you is just freedom within your body. So just a little bit of background, like for anyone listening as well. I know I told you the other day, I had back surgery 5 weeks ago. I've
Yes.
been I've been working around. I'm only 28, but Apparently, it's been something I've always dealt with back pain since being a child, and the surgeon told me you probably had this prolapse disc since being a kid. I would every time I used to get injured, I'd be bedbound for 5 days with my back. I used to think I'd give all the money in the world just to literally be healthy now and not have this back pain. So I always think the best thing that being fit and healthy can give you is just more time spent doing the things you enjoy doing. And if it means sacrificing that hour a week, 3 hours a week to be a little bit fitter, I think it's well worth the trade off
Right.
to be unhealthy.
Well, and I want to go to the starting point, both for fitness and for wealth. Rarely do folks start wealthy.
Yeah.
Rarely do folks start in shape.
Well, the statistic is most millionaires don't inherit it, are self-made.
Right. They're first-time millionaires in their family, and those first steps are hard. And it always seems to correlate with the beginning of the year too. New Year's resolution, I'm going to get my money in order.
Yeah.
I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to get in shape. And the first few weeks of January are awesome. And then it falls off. And, they quit going to the gym. They quit tracking their money and saving and investing.
Yeah.
And then by the next year, they're saying, but this year is going to be the year. This year is going to be why do you think that is? Why do you think those starting points are so difficult? Again, whether it's finance or fitness.
Well, they both.
Why do you think they're they're such a challenging part to get started?
They do both tie into each other. I always say this with all my clients. The same. So let's say money for example. To get to a point where your interest, it's so much harder to make money than once you've got money. Everyone hears the thing, money makes money.
Right.
It is the exact same with your fitness. You have to require. So let's take it with the money side of things. You work really hard. You start depositing cash into the bank. Eventually, that interest will start to pay off and start giving you a bit of a dividend, and then your money just starts to grow without working as hard. It's the same with let's say with fat loss or with your health. You have to put a lot of effort in at the start to get to the point where it's so much easier to maintain. Once you get to that point, the level of intensity and the level of effort required to maintain it is so much less. Because people think they have to be in a diet mindset their whole life and I've got to run this much, I've got to do this much. You just need to get to that point and then you can just stay consistent. You can increase your calories because what people don't understand is the maintenance is so much higher, like in terms of calories, and it's so much less in terms of output to maintain. It is just that start point and also the other side of things is with business, with fitness, I don't know about you, when I started my businesses and when I, and did all this stuff, it almost seems like a huge mountain to climb. Rather than people taking it step by step, people don't just suddenly wake up the next day a millionaire, do they? They go, right, we're going to make 50,000 this year. We're going to make 100,000 next year. We're going to do whatever it is. It's a slow, but for whatever reason, people are very emotional about their health and their money. And with their fitness, the thought of let's say you had to lose 30 pounds. A lot of my guys come and their executives are very time bored, but they're like, I need to lose 30 pounds. Well, they only focus on that point. And I would get overwhelmed. That was my only point. So then they struggle to even just break the first barrier. Whereas if they just started on focus on small little things, that becomes so much easier to start to then, right, it's starting to snowball now. And then that effort requires, we only need a little bit more effort to get to this next step, rather than jumping 0 to 100 immediately. Let's go 0 to 50, then let's go 50 to 75, let's go 75 to 100. That's so much easier, but it's also such an emotional thing as well, especially the fitness aspect.
Yeah, and it's a great segue into the next part of this conversation is, I've noticed this. I also like to play golf. So reverse engineering your goals is something that folks don't think about. I want to go out and I want to run as hard as I can, as fast as I can, for as long as I can. And then hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to run longer, harder, and faster. The best advice I ever received on a golf course was to play the hole backwards. And this, and to, instead of just hitting the ball as far as possible and then trying to chip it as close as possible, play the hole backwards and hit it to a place where you can hit a really good second shot into that green at a distance you're comfortable with, and instead of just smashing it as far as you can. Money's the same way, in my opinion. Instead of just saving as much as you can for as long as possible, which, let's face it, if you did that, you'd still be okay. But what are your goals? Because there's other podcasts and financial personalities that, want you to save as much and as long, but you're really not enjoying your life
No.
along that path.
Yeah.
Where if you said, well, my goal is to retire at this age and do this, and that costs this amount. Okay, now we can reverse engineer a financial plan for you and say, okay, well, then you need to start here and
100%.
save this amount. So what I've learned about running is I need to go slower to go faster.
Slow to go far. It's why I say to every single person, go slow
And
to go. Yeah.
yeah, the during my training runs, when I manage it by a heart rate instead of by a pace, or trying to hit my marathon goals in week 1 of my training,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
going slower to a heart rate, I end up essentially backing into that ultimate pace, what my
Mm-hmm.
goal is, because I bring my pace to my heart rate instead of my heart rate to my pace.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I can run longer. Also, I love running with people. I have a couple great running friends. We can talk during a run because I'm keeping my heart rate lower and enjoy that process along the way.
And that's accountability in a way. That's
Right.
what I said before. You 3 times more. That is a form of accountability, whether it's with me or with us or with a group of friends. I've got a training partner.
Yeah.
I know people will think like, oh, Stan, he's a PT. I bet he loves training. There's days I do not want to do it. I think about
Right.
push-ups all day, every day. I don't want to do it. So I have to go early morning, and I have a training partner. I know he's going to be there. So if I'm not there, he'll say, come, where are you? Why are you missing today? And
Yeah.
what you just said there, though, go slow to go far. I always go slow to go fast, go slow to go far. I always say, if you look at someone's routine, I'll tell you whether they'll be able to maintain it or not, and
Okay.
whether they'll succeed. It's very similar with money, isn't it? And with
Yes.
business. Show me your habits and show me whether you're going to be successful or not. Whether people are
Mm-hmm.
missing certain things. It's the exact same with fitness. Show me your habits day to day, and I'll tell you whether you're going to only last 6 weeks, 8 weeks. But I take the approach of, and I did this when I first started the gym. So I started in the gym at 15 with my dad. My dad was showing me, and he used to say, "Wait until you're 28 and you're a man, and that's when you'll start to like feel like, oh, I'm happy in my body." And he
Mm-hmm.
said, "Give it the next 15 years and dedicate yourself." And I know people don't want to do that, but let's just bring it down even a year. Be willing to do this for the next year, and don't worry about the actual end result of it, and just worry about the habit and the routine, and you'll probably get there. But it's the people that want to rush to the 30 pounds. So if you try and do all your fitness goals in the first week, 2 weeks, you are going to crash and burn.
Sure.
You're never going to get there. Whereas if you
Same thing with money. If you look at
exactly
your statement after 2 weeks of investing and you're disappointed because you didn't accumulate what you thought, then you're right. You're going to quit. You're going to give up, and then in a
exactly.
year, you're going to be back to saying, "I'm going to get my money together this year."
And the amount of people I've had that have said, "Oh, I need to do it. Yeah, I need to do it next week." And this constant stop and what I try to eliminate with all my clients is the stopping and starting. I'd rather you crawl forward for the next year, lose £1 a week, just establish a step goal, get your protein intake right, stop eating processed foods, get your sleep right, and I bet you're so much further ahead than where you would be if you just said, no, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll start again, or try and do it really quickly, crash and burn. I've got a guy over in California right now. He's in California, then he's in New York in the weekend. Every single week he flies back and forth, and it's just horrendous. And I said to him when we
Mm-hmm.
first started 3 months ago, I said to him, let's just focus on £1 a week. I know it doesn't sound like much, but I guarantee in 3 months' time you'll be glad that you did this rather than just suddenly being where you're at. And now we are 3 months in, we're £12 down, and he's doing really, really well. He only does
Good.
home workouts because that's all he can, and it's not ideal, but it's not perfect, but it's better than it would be. And
Sure.
that's what you've just got to focus on. It's similar with money. I set up the supplement business doing this. There's so many times where you start almost looking at, oh well, I could, I should get into trading, or I should get into this, and you concentration gets distracted thinking there's always a better option. Whereas
Right.
if it's working and you need to just be willing to stick at something for a long time, and be willing to not actually see any results until eventually you're like, oh wow, it's actually happened, whether that's in the mirror or in your bank account or whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned something about accountability there. It helps you stay accountable when you do things that way, because
Definitely,
you're not wanting to give up because things didn't go the way you wanted in week 1.
100%.
You know, instead of feeling good about the fact that you started,
Yeah.
and feeling good about the fact that I'm going to be the kind of person that runs a marathon. I'm going to be the kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
person that folks look at and say, hey, I want to look like him. Look, he's in good shape. I want to be the kind of person who is wealthy and has their money in order and has the flexibility and the freedom to travel, to say, listen, I'm only going to work a half day today because
Yeah.
my health is important, my longevity is important, and I want to be on the trail running. I want to be in the gym. I want to be doing anything other than sitting at a desk
Yeah.
and shortening my life.
That's
That
the most.
accountability is
Yeah.
important.
That is the most important thing. What you just said there, becoming the person. Now, the transformation actually isn't the end result. The transformation is how do I become? Whether it's the wealthy, but what does a healthy person do right now to
Hmm.
get to get in shape? What does it, or what does a wealthy person do day to day to become wealthy? It doesn't. You don't suddenly just become that person once you're there. You actually have to become it, the healthy person now. Whether you're not healthy at the moment, whether you want to be, lose weight or you just want to run a marathon or whatever it is. How do I become a person that runs a sub 4 hour marathon? What do they do every day? What their goals look like? And you have
Yeah.
to do that now rather than you don't just hope on the day. Fingers, I hope I do this. I hope I do this. And,
Right.
I hope by the time I'm 60, I've got 1 million in the bank or whatever the goal may be. You have to do those things day to day, whether that's invest or whether that's just, and also invest in your health as well. It's
Hmm.
a really, really important aspect of everyone's got a million problems, don't they? And then suddenly they're,
Well, right. And it builds, I mean, it builds resilience.
yeah, definitely.
When it comes to resilience and setbacks and comparing with things like market volatility or financial setbacks, I mean, I've hit the wall. I've hit the wall plenty of times. Now, there's a quote in marathon running that says it's an honor to hit the wall. It means you gave it everything you have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's great on race day, but when you look back at spending 22 weeks to get ready for a marathon and you hit the
yeah,
wall,
yeah.
there is that feeling of I just wasted the last 22 weeks. I share a quick story. Um, last month, 2 weeks ago, I was supposed to be doing my first Ironman 70.3.
Wow.
I had started training. I was in the pool. I was on the bike trainer. I was running. Um, got to a point where now I am not willing to ride my bike on the road.
I get it.
I don't think drivers are careful. I have 3 young children who don't want me to. At least I don't think they want me. They don't want me to be testing my life insurance at this point in their life.
No, I get it.
So I won't ride on the road. It's just something that's a hang up I have to get over. Well, I was going to be doing a race that was significantly hilly,
Mm-hmm.
and I went out for a training ride finally with a gentleman who was helping me, and I had never, I physically could not push the pedal down to move up the hill. And it wasn't a matter of willpower. I was trying my damnedest.
Yeah.
I just could not physically. And finally said, I don't think it's a good idea for me to do this race. I'm either going to hurt myself worse than if I was riding on. It's not worth it. So I had to back out. I'll eventually do an Ironman. It's just not going to be, it just wasn't 2 weeks ago. And
No.
now that I'm training for New York City, it'll have to be next year and I'll get there. But I even did the work, at least what I thought was the work to get ready. And it wasn't there. And to me, I thought a lot about this. It's no different than somebody saving for half of their life and then the market disrupts or they think the market has disrupted everything they're doing. What's
It's
your
also,
experience with folks like that in the gym and when it comes to fitness and health?
well, just taking your example for a second, like if it was me, and this is just a bit of advice, or even just what I would do, I would take that time away and go, right, okay, well, what were the determining factors that I couldn't get up that hill? Most likely, spend a little bit of time working on your leg strength in terms
Hmm.
of, right, because I had a woman who wanted to bring her 5K to, you guys do K, don't you? 5K?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
5K down. She wanted to bring her 5K down. She was at 28 minutes, couldn't get it below. And she was running every day. And I said to her, right, we're only going to run once a week. And she was an absolute psychopath in terms of she wanted to just run all the time. And I said,
Yeah.
we're going to do once a week and we're going to do strength training 3 times a week. Okay. And she was like, no, my run's going to get slower. I said, I promise you it won't because we're going to still maintain the run. And we did a dedicated run every week that would focus on getting times faster. And we'd focus on that. She actually brought it down by 5 minutes after 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. By doing strength training, focus on the strength, focusing on whether it's mobility and also giving yourself a little rest from just constantly trying to beat yourself into the ground. You can almost do a little bit too much. Like,
Yes.
not all work is good work. There's hard work, and you have to be
What
smart.
I've noticed with running is the folks that get injured only run. They
Exactly.
do no strength training. They do no yoga. They do no, cycling training or swimming or anything else. They
And
only run.
do you know the only thing that stops them is ego, because they're good
Yeah.
at the running. They're good at the running. So then they go, right,
Mhm.
okay, I want to run more, but I'm not that good at strength training. So, but it doesn't matter. Who are you comparing it to? You're only comparing it to yourself. As long as you
Right.
get better, it doesn't actually matter. You're not trying to be a bodybuilder or a powerlifter. All you're trying to do is improve your running. Well, if you take 2 months away from just bringing the volume of running down and focus on your leg strength, your quad strength, whatever it is to get up that hill or to get faster on a run, you've succeeded. So
Yeah. You said a mouthful there with ego too. And I'm guilty of it. I'm 6 foot
everyone
five.
is.
I'm 46 years old. The last thing I look good doing is yoga.
You are not built for
But
running either. 6'5"
I,
is ridiculous. I didn't realize you were that tall. You look a lot smaller in this.
yeah, 6'5",
Yeah,
46, and trying to do yoga is I have to do it in my basement by myself because if I go to a yoga class, I feel like I'm going to embarrass myself. But I probably need to get to that yoga class because it's going to hold me accountable.
yeah,
Because in my basement, when I'm frustrated with getting from move A to move B, you say, to hell with this. I'm going to go do something. I'm going to go do what I'm good at. I'm going to go run. I'm going to
yeah.
go swim. It's probably why my bike wasn't ready because
You need a big
hey,
bike as well. Six
I
foot
need a
five.
big bike. And I learned that I did not like
Yeah,
riding a bike. I wanted to like it. It wasn't what I enjoyed. And
definitely.
it's the longest part of an Ironman is being on the bike.
People, but the other thing that I also think as well is very similar to business, very similar to fitness. You have to get really comfortable at doing the boring stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Boring will get you 90% of everything.
Yeah,
I
running slow is boring.
Oh, walking's boring. Eating high protein meals, it's not fun. Everyone wants a bit of French toast and pancakes in the morning, but you don't.
Right.
It doesn't mean that it gets you the results you're after. So you have to determine what you want. But I get with all my clients, say we get 3 months in, and I do it all in phases. First phase is assessing where you're at right now, meeting where you're at, and implementing habits. Let's say you're on the move all the time. There's no point me saying, right, you're going to do these cooked meals because it's just not impossible. It's impossible.
Right.
So you've got to assess what you're doing. I've got guys who eat fast food a lot. So people think, because I'm not saying it's ideal either because it's processed food, but there's always a better option. If you go to a Chipotle, you can get a really good high protein meal.
Yeah.
For Chipotle that's 500 calories. You don't have to pick the 1,000 calorie option. So there's always something better. Like I've got guys who literally are on the move in airports, pilots, they never have a set home cooked meal, but you can make better choices. But when we do it I do it in a phased way. Phase one is assess and implement. Phase two is reinforce what we've just done, and then focus on like fat loss and getting healthier. And then it's the point of transform and then maintain. But when we get into phase two, I say to all of them, right, we're going to get really boring now. The more boring you can be, the better.
Yeah.
Just if you can eat the same meals each day, it makes it so much easier because most of it is just a mental aspect. Similar to training for a marathon, you're thinking, right, what have I got to do next week? I've got to plan this, plan this. If you can take certain elements away, like your nutrition, where you go, right, I know breakfast is this each day, my snacks this each day. Lunch, I'm going to grab I've got guys in New York who eat from certain places. So I say, right, New York, you're in New York, get this every day. And dinner, you can be a little bit more experimental. But the more boring you can be, whether it's just turning up and just sitting on a laptop and doing things every day that you
Yeah.
don't want to do. But it will pay off.
Yeah. Well, and I mean that leads us to the last topic is what gets measured gets managed,
100%.
and there are so many financial tools that can measure what you're doing. There's
Yeah.
Things you can attach to your bank accounts and to your credit cards to measure things you don't want to be spending money on anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you find is the best way for folks to track their fitness? I mean, I wear a Whoop. I've started to really like understanding, my heart rate and how that kind of plays into everything. I wear a heart monitor when I run.
Perfect. Yeah.
Make sure that I'm keeping as close of a measure of my heart rate as possible to try to manage that that process. What other things do you think are advantageous for folks to use?
So, in terms of the wealth, it's just funny that you said that. Then, I'm inherently, just with my background growing up, I'm inherently a saver. So I really struggle to spend money, especially on myself. I do it on my business now, and I've had to get into the process of doing it. But it's when people are that mindset of like, right, hoard. They don't.
Yeah.
It's just so I always use things now, like in terms of wealth to help me go right. I'm tracking my expenses. I'm tracking this. This is a business expense. This is a personal, and then you can weigh it all up. With the fitness side of things, people. So there's a few things. If you've got a performance goal, heart rate monitors and things like that are great because
Hmm.
you can get into zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, and like if people don't know what that is, zone 2 people call it like the fat loss zone. It's just
Yeah.
a talking pace. Zone 3, it's more of a moderate, and then zone 4 and 5. I mean, it kind of speaks for itself. Zone 5, you're like on, and zone 6, you're in death's door essentially. You're like
Yeah.
you're
Right.
advanced. So it's tough. Heart rate monitors are great. I wouldn't say the average person needs a heart rate monitor when they go to the gym.
Right.
And this is what I mean as well. A lot of people barriers to entry to get to fitness as well. You don't need. I've got a Garmin. I
Yeah.
spent £600, so what, $800 on this. It has GPS. It has all these things, tracking calories, all these things. Honestly, I wasted my money. It is a glorified step counter. I only use it for steps. I do not. I could have just bought a little $20 Fitbit instead of buying something like this. But I thought, oh, it's got GPS on it. When I go in walking in the hills, I'll be able to. I've never done it. So these are things that I would recommend. I love the Whoop. So with all my clients, I have different packages with all my clients, but with all my
Uh-huh.
specialist clients, I get them a Whoop because it does.
Okay.
Sleep is the most important thing. People,
Yes.
it's something that they ignore. I wore one for 3 years, Whoop, and it was one of the best things I did in teaching me about my sleep. When you're getting deep sleep, when you're getting light sleep, all those types of things, you've got your strain, stress. I had a few years ago, I was working so many hours and I got stressed and my body crashed. I ended up going to a private doctor and they said my cortisol was through the roof and it crashed my hormones. That's why I try to emphasize stress. You can almost do too much. You can only do what you can recover from. So if you're everything compounds, so with the Whoop, it's really, really effective. I use it with all my clients. Let's say you've got stuck in traffic. There's level 1 for stress. You get a text you don't like, level 2. Work stressful, level 3. Family, 4. But then you try and do a really hard workout at the gym, and then you're trying to starve yourself at the same time. That goes to level 5, level 6. And that was what I was guilty of. I was trying to do too much and burn the candle at two ends, and like in terms of my fitness and my work. And you're doing too much and it doesn't pay off. So stress is a really big factor with the Whoop. It'll also monitor, the new ones as well have blood pressure and ECG as well, which is
Yeah. That's
really,
what I just upgraded to was the blood pressure
they're
and the
really cool.
ECG.
So I
Yeah.
use that's the other health side of things that I use with all my clients. So they're really, really cool. Apple Watch, great for using steps. Once again, people go, oh, I've burned 600 calories in the workout. It doesn't matter. And
Yeah.
you've probably not done that as well. So I like all those. Aura Ring is great as well. That's very similar to the Whoop. I just don't. Maybe it's commitment issues. I just don't like rings, so I just don't.
You may
I
be
just
saying a mouthful there, buddy.
I just prefer the band. But yeah, and then obviously things that what you said. If you can track it, you can measure it.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Wealth on the Move, the podcast, brought to you by Hoffman Wealth Management. Here at Hoffman Wealth Management, we focus on working with busy families and active retirees, helping them navigate the complicated scenarios of their wealth while building the life that they desire. And we believe that every financial journey deserves direction. That is exactly what our proprietary process, the HWM navigation formula, provides. Just like a GPS, our navigation formula begins with two key questions. Where are you now? What does your financial picture currently look like? And where do you want to go? What goals and dreams do you have? From there, we help you navigate every financial turn en route to your desired destination with clarity and confidence. It's more than a plan, it's a personalized path forward. If you want to learn more on how the navigation formula can work for you, reach out through the contact options in the show notes below. We would love to help you chart your next move. Now, back to this episode of Wealth on the Move, the podcast. All right. So, Stan, we have a little bit of a fun thing we like to do on the Wealth
Okay.
on the Move podcast is
I'm
a little
nervous.
bit of a lightning round.
I'm
Hit
nervous.
you
I don't know why. I don't know why.
hit you with some rapid fire questions and see what you have to say. So,
Okay.
first thing, what do you think is the most underrated fitness habit?
Walking.
Walking? Why
Walk.
so?
The average US steps is 3,300 a day, which is 30 minutes of movement. If you literally double it, you'll bring your chance of death down by 50%.
Wow.
That's the average a day. And nowadays, I know, I work at a desk. Sitting's the new smoking. You
Right.
literally, everyone sits down all day. You will, and people think they've got to go and run, they've got to cycle, they've got to do all these things to lose body fat. I have women and guys who literally never stepped foot in a gym and they've lost 40 pounds in 4 months by just walking and controlling their food. Now, I'm saying still go to the gym, still do your exercise, but if you had to prioritize one thing to lose weight, walking and food.
Yeah. Katie in our office, she's a serial walker at lunchtime. The folks around our office know her as Katie the Walker, and they'll see her in random places and say, "Hey, you're the girl that's always walking around Jeanette." Yeah, I work there. And walks, and Katie is a poster specimen for physical health. She's in great shape
You can
and
get
walks a
Also, you
ton.
can get little home. I get all my clients to get little home treadmills. Like
Okay.
if they sit at a desk all day, it is literally the greatest thing you can do. I'm a big advocate of walking all the time.
Okay. What's your favorite post workout meal?
Oh, I'm a bit of a weirdo. I'm not gonna lie, and people aren't gonna like this. So what I do is I have a tortilla wrap, but I like
Okay.
to put, and I know what your face is gonna say right now. I put strawberry jam,
Okay.
right, and then I put minced beef on the wrap with a bit of cheese melted on top, and it is my favorite.
Minced beef,
Yeah, like ground beef,
ground beef, strawberry jam,
and cheese melted on top.
and cheese.
I know, but honestly, anyone I've ever made that meal for, I know I can tell by your face already. Anyone that I've ever made, and I also get like a nice natural jam with not a lot of sugar in. But
Okay.
it is my favorite. It's got protein and quick fast carbs. It is my favorite one. And
All
everyone
right.
I say,
So
I've never made anyone it, and they've gone, "That is disgusting." I promise you, it's so good.
I'm gonna make a commitment to trying it. That's the best I can do
Yeah,
is
I
I
like
will make a
I
commitment
like
to trying it. Um, we're getting ready to leave on vacation. I run in the mornings when I'm on vacation. I know that may not sound like much of a vacation, but
No, I
to me,
love it.
it's when my time is my own and it's freest. So I
Workouts,
will.
workouts on
But I'm
holiday are the best. Workouts on holiday
here.
are the best.
Here's what I'm not going to tell anybody else in my family what I'm doing, and I'm just going to get their reaction to me trying strawberry jam, ground beef. What kind? Like just regular
Get
cheddar
five.
cheese?
I like mozzarella personally. You can also do
Okay.
raspberry. I don't discriminate. Raspberry jam is also just as good.
Okay.
I'm a jam aficionado, honestly. And if you do it, please record and send it to me. I would
That's
love
what I'll
to see it.
do. Yeah.
And if you
We
really want
will.
to get fancy, pineapple in it as well. Just saying. If you really want to get fancy,
Well, do you put pineapple on your pizza?
yeah, I love pineapple on
Okay,
pizza.
so that may be why. I do like pineapple, just not on my pizza. I'm gonna try this without
Okay.
pineapple first, and
Yeah, yeah.
then we'll
Okay.
make sure that we that we check back in a bit. Um, what's the best money habit that you wish you would have started earlier?
Invested in Bitcoin. No, I'm joking. But if I'd done that 10 years ago, he'd have made a lot of money. Um, I would say it's a good question. I would say investing. I've been investing, but just investing in myself earlier.
Okay.
So I think the best investment you can make is in yourself, whether it's your health or whether it's just business mentors or whether it's just learning new skills. Because you can. Most people don't. They make money and then invest.
Yeah.
I think people nowadays think, "Oh, I'm going to get rich by, putting it into slowly building up." And over time, you will. But I think if you can make the skills now, you'll probably
Yeah.
make a lot
I
more
agree.
sooner. So that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, that's something I try to get through. I have a 14, a 9, and a 7-year old, 6-year old, and trying to explain that to them now is a real challenge. The 14-year old's starting to get it a little bit, but investing in the skills that will make you money, investing in the skills that will, um, make you better at your craft, or it's tough to get that mission across. But while you have the free time, if I had to look back, that is what I would go back and I would have worked more on my skills
Yeah,
in especially at high school age
yeah.
than I did.
Another one as well. I think it's Alex Hormozy that says this. He said, "Solve rich people problems." So it's
Yeah.
they'll pay you far better. A guy that I know, he's around my age, but he worked in the car industry and started selling cars, and now he made his own business. Nowadays with Instagram, everyone wants a nice car, so he's
Hmm.
just he's absolutely killing it selling cars. So
Yeah.
solve rich people problems. I think that's a really good one as well.
We were just at a car dealership last week. We got a master class in communication and sales, and it was really awesome experience. One thing that I wish, in fitness, you can't figure it out because then you aren't doing the fitness. But to me, the best money habit is automation.
Yeah.
And you can't do that with your fitness. You can't automate it, and I think that the fitness industry is going to be, not necessarily industry, but personal health, while we're going to be creating the time with things like AI and automation, hopefully we use it to take better care of our bodies,
Also,
because we can't automate walking. We can't
100%.
automate those things. You physically have to do it.
But if you do build the knowledge around it, something that's really important is a lot of the doctors nowadays are going to be using AI to pass their tests. You need to get control of your health and fitness now, because you need to be aware of the things that people are telling you, and you need to be aware of and listening to your body. So I think automating other areas of your life gives you more chance. But also, you say you can't automate health and fitness. I know from years and years of tracking my food that I know 4 eggs is 272 calories, 26 grams of protein. I know all these things. I can look at a plate and say, yep, 1 tablespoon of olive oil, 121 calories. I know it all, because in my head, I've done it so much. So it's almost like having a computer in your head where you go, right, I know that's that. I know that's that. I can just make a meal and not worry about it. And then I can just put meals together in 5 minutes that I know are going to fit. Like I lost, when I went to Bali, I mentioned earlier, I went to Bali.
Yeah.
I only trained I did a 8-week little, shred to look good on the beach. And I lost 22 pounds in 8 weeks. I didn't track a single meal. But because I know if I walk and I eat these types of foods every single day, I will lose weight. And then you just tinker that over time. So it's almost like, yes, you can't automate it. It's still required effort, but you can get as close to as long as you start building the knowledge around your health and fitness.
Great. All right. We have a tradition here on Wealth on the Move podcast. I have totally stolen this from the Diary of a CEO podcast. I think it's a great way to tie our guests together, and to keep our little Wealth on the Move community growing. So we have a question from a previous guest. So our previous guest was Phil and Aaron Lockwood from the Always Be Changing brand. Mm-hmm. They are semi-nomadic travelers who have decided that they're going to run their business from the road. They're going to raise their kids and educate their children on the road. While last year they got to see all 7 continents in 1 year.
Wow.
Their question for you was, and they didn't know who our next guest was. Okay. If you could go back in time and start over from any point in your life, what point would you pick and why?
If I could go back and start from any point. Wow. I would start after, so it's 2 things. I've got 2 in my head. So I'd either do after college and not go to university.
Okay.
Just go straight into work. But then at the same time, my path would have changed. I probably wouldn't be doing this.
Sure.
Because I met a lot. Like I said before, I trained Premier League footballers and met really cool people going and doing my Saturday job, and that's where I met those people because of university. But for me, university didn't serve a purpose. So I would, if I'd give my younger self, I'd say don't go to university, go straight into work and go and chase this little dream of yours right now. But the other time would be, whilst I was doing that, I was starting to get a lot of publicity over in the UK, on social media and those types of things. I didn't take advantage of it. I was too inside my own head, not wanting to speak to a camera, not confident enough to, put myself out there. And I let a lot of opportunities pass me by. So if I could go back and shake myself there, I would have just said, right, that's where you need to, put time. Don't be worried about what people think. Talk to the camera. It doesn't actually matter.
Right.
And then eventually I started doing so. I look back now and go, why didn't I just do this earlier? So I'd probably say that point, because you can't change too much of the past, but I'd probably say that point. But yeah, that's a really good question. What would your answer be?
I'd have worked on different things through high school.
Nice.
I would have tried to develop more skills that would have been more useful. But listen, I graduated from high school in 1997. The internet was just being born. So we had no idea what the future held for us. I mean, I guess who does? But
yeah,
I didn't have an email address until I went to college.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. So there's some of the skills I worked on in school, like my handwriting. Who cares?
No one gets. Yeah.
Right?
No one gets.
Worry about my kids' penmanship. When are they ever going to write? You type everything.
Exactly.
So working on relevant skills. Gary Vee says all the time, why are we so worried about taking screens away from our kids? There's more screens in their future than there are less. Now, what's on those screens is important.
Exactly.
And that's what needs to be monitored.
Yeah.
I'm talking to a fitness coach right now, so you may be saying something
No,
completely
I agree.
different with the importance of screens. But when we look forward, there's more screens than less in their future.
I'm a hypocrite. I have to for my job, but I spend 10 hours a
Sure.
day on my phone. 10 hours
Yeah.
a day, like posting content, messaging people, messaging my clients, on calls, researching. You don't go to a library anymore. You
Right.
literally. So I'd be a hypocrite to say to spend less time on your screens.
But I would have try to learn more relevant things. The problem then was we didn't know what we were learning for, because
Exactly.
the world, and we're seeing it all again now with AI. It was kind of like the financial crisis. The financial crisis, in my opinion, while it hurt to go through, gave my generation a great opportunity, because we got to go back to where the market was in 1997.
I know.
But now we had jobs, we had money, we had, we could invest like it was 1997 all over again. So hopefully my generation's looking at this AI development and saying, okay, we were there when AOL was getting started and while Google and Amazon were being born. Now let's apply what we learned to artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
How do we embrace that? While our parents are saying, I don't want to use the internet. Well, guess what? It was here to stay. And now if you don't know how to use it, you're not advancing. Well, let's not have that same approach to artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Let's look at it and say, how do we use this? It's not going to take our job if we learn how to use it. So let's make sure we're understanding AI.
It's the people that use it best that will take your job.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean, AI pros are going to be the next folks that get hired into companies. How do we hire someone to specialize in AI for our business and our firm?
Mark Cuban said the first trillionaire will be an AI related company.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
All right. So now, what's your question for our next guest?
Do I keep it fitness related or do I go?
This is your part of the show, buddy.
My favorite. I'm going to go completely away from fitness. I'm going to go back to my history degree. If you could go back to one point in time, in whether recent or pyramids, whatever you want.
Yeah.
One point in time in human history, where would you go to and why?
You're not going to like my answer to this.
Go on.
But I would love to go back to the founding of the United States.
I don't mind. So my dissertation was on I love U.S. history. That's my
okay.
I love U.S. history.
I think that would be, because again, talking about the birth of the internet and the birth of artificial intelligence, the birth, the thoughts were so new then when it came
to
freedom and when it came to individual rights, and that was really all that we were entitled to, was life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
The checks and balances.
And the mindset then, I would have loved to have seen that being born, especially being able to participate in the ongoing result of that.
I mean, the checks and balances, they were so ahead of the time. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Well, this has been a fun episode to share. I'm glad that we got to do this. Yeah. First, tell us where our listeners can find you and follow you and connect with you if they want to know more.
Are your listeners mostly on LinkedIn, or are they on everything, social media? If you're on social media, if you're on Instagram, TikTok, things like that, it's @StanV_PT. I put a lot of the similar content out on LinkedIn as well. So that's just Stan Vaccari. So that's my.
We'll have it all in our show notes too.
Yeah, and SV Health Coaching is my coach company. So that's you can find me anywhere there.
Awesome. Well, Stan, thank you so much.
Will, it was a pleasure.
Check us out. HoffmanWealth.com is our website. I'm very active on LinkedIn as well. That's how Stan and I got to meet one another. And until our next episode, remember to keep your health and your wealth always moving. Thank you.
I love it, Will. Thanks so much.